Hi everyone. Today I'm sharing some experiences on my experimental researches on white holes. I hold it as a true statement that the universe is conscious. The universe is physical, yet the generation and simplification of human knowledge is an endless conscious process. And it is by the consciousness of being conscious, an intermediate function between theoretical consciousness and pragmatic consciousness made the experiment possible. I started the odyssey with black hole localities, knowing that I would be able to locate the white hole from the interior regions of the black hole. And this was where I adopted the non-locality principle in the research. The underlying rationale was a recombination of the nuclear dynamics to the local universe, and it was aided by Lorentz transformation to special relativity. The plausibility rationale was based on the information theory of light as signal carrier in the solar sphere as to the wider undiscovered universe. The light speed is then leveraged to space in reference to the human agent, and the agent becomes the strings with timescales amplified instead of the mechanical properties of signals. This separates the quantum reality and celestial realities. This is to say that the non-locality principle is not on the localities of waves, but only non-local to the observer. Since the events happen in time, the time the observer perceives becomes detached from the everyday experiences. The consciousness then can only be stored in medium that acts as an external memory aid to the consciousness of the observer. It is then by the quantum system the arrow of time is intermediated for the limitation of brain activities. It is in this regard the experimental work is a process of reflective seeing. This animation is made from the phase data of the Small Magellanic Cloud observation. It targeted the observation as the weak nuclear force. The animation not only shows the weak force, but also captures the actual angular momentum on the astral particles that form the image. The collective consciousness in the quantum system has become collective unconsciousness with the purpose of systemic quantifications. The white hole was the main purpose for the observation, but the everyday shifts from the mundane to the continuity of the experiment became more of the challenge than the experiment itself. Therefore, as is the irreversible nature of the mechanical systems, the earliest memories and mathematics became a time dilation to the state of consciousness. Even though academic practices avoid self-citation, in a 5-year research with active isolation and traumatic responses, the continuity of the research activity was substantially aided by the conscious practice of self-referencing. Much psychological support were gotten from the University of Arizona astronomy staff that run the Coursera course and astronomical community in Discord. The astronomical research took place after I have submitted my graduate dissertation to Communication University of China on developmental macroeconomy in relation to multilateralism and democratization, regardless of the political degradations in mainland China with ideological impositions. Since the multispectral data I worked on was reprojected, I confirmed the current development of the juxtapose with the IJISRT query system. The current evolvement of NGC 3034 accorded with my multispectral data processing. I shared my analysis on black hole type's spatial relation to white holes with Professor Ruth Daly and the Astropedia community on Discord. From the analysis on the collection of the observation data between 2020 and 2021, The key physical characteristics on the juxtapose and the white hole is with the formation of metal insulators. The morphological distribution of white holes around and inside the four types of black holes are caused by the physical differences of the metal insulators. My initial response for detecting the white hole is on the end phase of black hole accretion, but the evidences suggest black hole accretion may only be a phenomenon from the juxtaposed radiation. This means that black hole spins give the best chance to the empirical detections of white holes. Quantitative and numerical researches on black hole quantum spins may give the best systemic reference to the metal insulator formation, with possible further approaches on extreme conditions of fission in fusion environments. It is probable that the masking of black holes are actually contributed by the masking of the white hole through such fission process. The zeroth law of black hole mechanics then becomes the thermodynamic reference frame for further evidence gathering observation, with the Penrose-Hawking singularity as the initial reference frame. The mathematical theorem diverged from traditional astronomical mathematical expressions to define both systemic and actual entropy. The binary matrix of the data was the working energy to the celestial objects. A split was created with the first theorem so that the system can create room for the white hole. The multispectral aperture then became the systemic threshold for adjustment allowed for white hole. The evidences generated from the observation with the kinematics processed from the IJISRT 3034 multispectral data prove that from a linear signal observation, the event horizon may exist, but it is only an instrumentation response. The Euclidean geometry were adopted to form a vector dynamics for astrochemistry description, and the theorems describe the systemic capacities. More details are published in the article White Hole Observation and Experimental Results. The adapted Penrose-Hawking singularity theorem with Newtonian factors can further be used to adjust general relativity with advancements in string theory. Metal insulator can serve for a beginning in the physical and isotopic development in gravitational singularity, but for non-charged black holes, it is more difficult. My presentation proposes for the use of light clocks on the local universe juxtaposes with the solar signal instrumentation rationale in data approaches. This may expand the current low-dimension observation results on the white holes. The instrumentation analysis with theoretical consciousness was published in the article A Multi-Wavelength Data Analysis with Multi-Mission Space Telescopes. The article on the white hole observation result used the mechanical reduction method in interpretations with the particle filtering effects the microobservatory served. The resonance observation in the Moon and Sun system suggests that the solar mass description and black hole formation is not the most precise measurement but may apply well on the Schwarzschild surfaces. This is also the reason I adopted Daly's approach of editing luminosity in equivalence to the energy momenta with astrochemical approaches to be further developed. From the memory of how the theory originated from my high school studies, I propose that the particle-wave duality comes from the incompleteness of white hole material states. The white hole observation detected white hole seeds from the energy momenta. The alignment of data was on the thermal radiation surface. Further deduction generated the cold dark matter, warm dark matter, and hot dark matter. The warm dark matter has the most significant data noise from the astrochemical reactions. Further deduction on the noise reduced the visibility of the warm dark matter. With the solar influence considered, the optical space telescopes may be occulted by the light noises. This also corroborates with my multispectral data analysis with the gravitational well and shock waves from the NGC 3034 data. During the deduction on the white hole material, a sequence of simulation on the observational happenings were processed from the histograms. The first two images shows the thermal eruption from the multi-mission observation. Black hole seeds may enhance the visibility of further sites. However, Due to the shock waves from the oscillation, momentary flashes may occur and explains the ultraviolet wavelength splits and quantum particle splits. They may be caused and intermediated by the ejected white hole seeds. The event horizon that is also the most visible in Chandra data from histogram detection is caused by the local shock waves, which is also the signal kinematics in the previous slides. And here is the white hole gravitational well. This phenomena is also seen in the observation experiment. The appearance of black hole seeds on M87 is accompanied by the radioactive transfer, and is the evidence for it to be a red nostrum black hole. A later experiment was to try to capture the M87 warmed-up matter with the strategic thinking on how to best utilize the limitation of the NASA Deep Space Network's only 4 bands. However, due to the remote nature of the observation, the feedback from the emails did not generate the anticipated sequence. The oscillation of resonant Nordstrom juxtapose may be key to the reason for the tight polymerization with the strong nuclear force. In the Kerr-Newman case, the weak nuclear force deduction was used on the data and created 2 images on the white hole ejection fields. The initial weak force slit was on a star on the NGC 3034 system, caused by shock waves. Therefore, the ejected white hole material is the best evidence for the alternative description on black hole formation with white hole taken into consideration. The white hole fluxes captured by the multiple split data experiment purports that they gain mass from the polymerization reactions. It means that the masking of black holes may not entirely be a gravitational effect, either in Newtonian or Einsteinian senses, and is key to the intergalactic forces and the creation of space as to time in the cosmos. And in the original theory, time is infinite in a white hole. It is also with this regard, the separation of the Big Bang spacetime to the white hole spacetime needs further evidence from the proposed fission research. If the Big Bang model is civilizational, then the white hole model have to put the solar system into an objective lens. In the sun observation in the series, the supernova phenomenon with black hole interference pattern seems consistent with the solar mass expression of black hole mass. But in reference to the unsuccessful warm dark matter experiment with M87, the traditionally perceived redshift may need to be adjusted according to the warm dark matter observed on the Trifid nebula, and the hydrohelium model of solar mass as to black hole mass need to be extended with new isotopes. This is the evidence of right ascension M87, whereby the research proposal was submitted previously in 2020 to the Tufts University, the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy. For the scientific responsibilities I have always held, and today with the empirical evidence, I would address it again on the importance of nuclear disarmament, arms control, non-proliferation, and now in relation to the near-Earth object threat mitigation strategies. Theoretically, the launch bases of intercontinental missiles and space or ground-based anti-satellite weapon systems can be altered for NEO mitigation with multilateral and international coordinations. The warheads from the disarmament can be fixed to other resilient thin materials or other types of object-specific fixtures. And for future reference, particle filtering processes are the better ways for nuclear production than the traditional electric current intensive methods, which both harms the civil society with high proliferation risks and contribute to geopolitical conflicts. The human-made weak force method is widely adopted by powers in developing countries. Humanitarian values do not only apply to the civil society, but the ordinary soldiers alike. The radioactive transfer of the moon phase serves as the proof for the reason on the 1985 Outer Space Law document. The white hole source's influence on the sun and the moon shaped the resonance imaging with layers of radiation as exposure. The radiative transfer in the depth of view in the layers shapes the moon phase and is not the sign of accretion. It is for this reason the source consists of the best result in the experiment on white hole observation. In the multispectral data excluding X-rays on NGC 3034, the weak force decay shows a distinct momentum generated by the black hole body from the oscillation as the torque of the Kerr-Newman. The southern pinwheel results showed active galactic nuclei and Bose-Einstein condensate as the black hole phenomenon. The condensate observed originates from the white hole radiation as in the future light cone. The southern pinwheel appears to be a Kerr type, and the Bose-Einstein condensate suggests, apart from the metallicity Kerr-Newmans generate, Kerr also shows symptoms of heavy element and metallicity generation in the galaxy cluster. The vent for the generation is from the galactic nuclei. The M87 observation generated both space and time-like singularity. The rope trip effect is anticipated for Reissner-Nordstrom types and can be the cause for high noises in such types. It is by the fact that non-charged black holes also generate metallicity in local galactic clusters, it is plausible to say white hole formation depends on the metal-insulator transition in critical mass oscillation. Therefore, the physical properties of white holes form from polymerization ionizations. The juxtaposition suggests they gain mass from black holes. It is with the evidence. The Big Bang theory in its best shape is a human-centric explanation from a planetary perspective in the civilizational development form. The solar system is what humanity has seen first, but does not mean the solar system shaped before the black hole or white hole. Nor does it suggest the white hole shaped later than the black hole in the juxtaposition. The conformal cyclic theory is a pragmatic theory in my perspective, yet no deterministic conclusions can be drawn without further evidences gathered from the solar system, as with the current range of space covered by human activities. In summary, the research initially generated the astronomical notion of space and time as to the solar-centric notion of biological time. Such notion may have psychological consequences with consciousness. I have presented the theoretical base of the research and observational procedures. I enumerated the developmental studies on black holes to the white hole theory with empirical evidence. I adapted the solar instrumentation for research efficiency with an apparatus rationale, and made it possible to converge galactic time length to solar space. The research data used are many NASA missions, and the white hole observation were on Harvard-Smithsonian Micro-Observatory. I used to work in the cinematic arts for humanitarian purposes, and just got back to the astronomical sciences. Here are my contact information and critical feedback highly appreciated. Thank you.